Good afternoon and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Winnipeg Food Council this February 11th, 2025. This afternoon at 12:12 p.m. I'm Jason Schreier, this year's chair of the Winnipeg Food Council and City Councilor for the Elmwood East Kildonan Ward. And I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation, Treaty 3 territory. We have with us today our Power Pack Committee of the Winnipeg Food Council. And where do we start? We want to start with our 3 new members. We've got Mike Chin here with us in the council chamber. We also have remotely, we've got Jill Beauchamp, as well as Ramon Salas, who's also here in the committee room here at City Hall, and Ramon here from the province of Manitoba. Yeah, fair enough. We also have with us our vice chair of the committee, Martina Gornick-Marion, and we also have our mayor's representative to the Food Council, and that is Councilor Don Dobson. We have our coordinators, Danny Powers and Ursula Jabola, as well as our clerk, her first day on her own today, Nicole Carnegie. And we have as well with us Dustin Hoffman, and as well as Nana Banerjee. Bring us to the people on AV. We've got Holly here setting this up. And now we're hardwired. And Kurt Carnegie, where do we go from there?
So we'll need a motion to authorize people to participate remotely.
Fair enough. Dustin moves. Moves so. Any further discussion? Vote in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Did we need a majority to pass that, or just the majority?
Yes, I think a 2/3 majority is fine. So you've called the question. And then we also need a motion to accept the minutes from the November 26th meeting.
Okay, and Martina moves acceptance of minutes of the previous meeting. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now we can move on to the reports.
Okay. First report from the chairperson, that's fine. We want to welcome 3 new members of the Winnipeg Food Council for this new year. Mike Chin, Jill Beauchamp, and Ramon Salas. Do they say a few words at this point for
We can either address that, or when we go on to membership updates, they can say a few words, whatever you prefer, Councillor. It's up to you.
I just want to say welcome. I've always stated, the people I like it or not, this is my favorite committee. I'm always fascinated and always pleased every single year with the people that come on the committee. It does hurt a little bit having been on this committee from the beginning. The people that have been here for so long and then the terms expire and people move on. I always hope to see them again. Often enough I do, I hear about them, which is a good thing. The interconnectivity of this committee before people get here is fascinating, and the fact that this committee can actually help that greater interconnectivity is just what I like to see, what I like to be part of, and know that it's happening. And in that spirit, you kind of got some big shoes to fill, but you're probably already doing that. So filling those shoes. So anyway, welcome to our new members. Just look forward to the year together. And in terms of other report, for years I've been a member of this committee. I never said I did much. I wasn't a very active member. I came to all the meetings, asked a lot of questions. But this last year it's kind of changed around. They're doing something pretty big regarding food access in my ward of Elmwood East Kildonan. And because of the Winnipeg Food Council and last year presentation by the Climate Change Connection showing us a model in Brandon about how they have a great sustainable model of providing food as cheaply as possible for people. That's what we're going to do in Elmwood. We're working with the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal Corporation. I'm buying a couple of shipping containers and also a storefront right across the street at Johnson and Henderson. You can store the shipping containers right on Henderson and Johnson because of the zoning already of a pre-existing, what had been a gas station. Now it's a community corner. Also working with the Toronto Renewal Corporation. We'll be having the storefront sometime this year. The slow process, but everything's slowly working out. And I just look forward to this. It is a big project, and couldn't do this at all without Leilani Villarba and the Toronto Renewal Corporation. They're a managerial powerhouse, and we're just hitting our stride in terms of working together. And this is a big, ambitious project for a very important issue. And I want to thank Food Council again. Once again, I'm Dustin Hoff for suggesting the climate change connection be the delegation last June, and things are working out. I'll leave it at that. And I move my report.
Wonderful. So can we get a mover to accept the verbal report from the chairperson? Be received as information?
Martina?
Okay.
Those in favor? Motion carries. We're up to coordinators.
We are off to the coordinator report.
Okay. So welcome. We welcome the 3 new citizen members who have recently joined the Winnipeg Full Council. All the 3 members have been invited to the 2 subcommittee meetings that we have, both the Research and Policy Subcommittee and the Development and Communication Subcommittee. And we had they've been invited just to observe and decide which subcommittee they would like to join. Yes, and so that's that for that. And I know Martina will talk more about those that attended the meetings, and we also invited 2 non-voting members to also watch both the R&P subcommittee and the DNC subcommittee. The Winnipeg Full Council annual report has been completed. Danny, do you have a copy of it?
I'm afraid I left it.
Okay, we have an online version on the agenda as an attachment, so you can view the Winnipeg Full Council annual report on there. For the household food waste and diversion program, the interim compost program, which we are all aware started last year, is ongoing. And we spoke with a member of Solid Waste, a staff from Solid Waste Division, and they confirmed that in about 2 months, they were able to divert about 40,000 kilograms of organics from the landfill. So that is to say that the program has been successful. I can say that. And so the program is still going on until, I don't know, maybe when the big green card program takes effect. But for now, the interim compost program is still ongoing. So please be encouraged to drop your organics or your compost in any location that is close to where you reside. Another thing I wanted to briefly touch base on was the LFIF grant, which is the local food infrastructure funds. Yeah. So we've had, the coordinators have had several meetings with Jennifer McRae from Climate Connections on the grant application process. I personally attended an information session that was put together by Pathfinder Services to discuss the grant application. We've had meetings with the clerks just to discuss our involvement with these grants, and we reached a few touch points regarding some issues that we were having. So in conclusion, the Winnipeg Full Council will not be able to enter a partnership with Climate Connections in applying for the grant. And so we cannot act as the partner. And because of this, even the food production element of the grant, we were notified by our clerks that the Winnipeg Full Council can be part of that food production element. And that is because the food production element we're looking at was community gardens, and we do not own any community gardens as of date. We only provide small grants program to support community gardens. And so we won't be able to be the food production element of that grant. We've also given Climate Change Connection suggestions as to other organizations she can contact for that food production aspect. But then the Winnipeg Full Council has agreed to write a letter of support, which Jennifer McCrae was very happy about, to support this LFIF grant, so that because it's a good initiative for Winnipeg, whether we like it or not, and even if we can't directly participate, we're able to support. So Danny will talk more about the letter of support that we have prepared, and Councillor Schreier would sign the letter and it will be given to Jennifer McCrae from Climate Change Connections. And I think that's the end of my report.
So, any questions, any discussion? Dustin?
Thanks for the update, coordinators. I wasn't aware of the latest information until the meeting here. As some may know, some may not. It was my recommendation to apply for in partnership with Climate Change Connections and their affiliated partners in support of more funding for the Urban Agriculture Community Small Grants Program. The intended purpose for this specific application was envisioned as supporting community spaces owned or leased out to community groups such as community gardens scattered across the city. It's on City Winnipeg owned property. The intent was never to get stuck on a loophole that we do provide funding to organizations and so forth. There is a carve-out option to always consider adapting the program to meet the eligibility, therefore providing funding to community gardens, for example, Riverview Community Garden. It's on City of Winnipeg property, therefore eligible as an owned infrastructure. Therefore, we would be providing the infrastructure owned, meaning those that are leasing the land cannot remove the infrastructure. We own it, it stays there, but they're the ones that agree to it. So there's no immediate sense from my understanding that it needed to be rejected. It was an option to support growing food in Winnipeg, support community gardens, advance food security, and not have to miss this opportunity. So if there's anything that can be discussed as part of this council or brought forward to not shut the door to the application, I would be open for discussion and open to hearing what anyone else on council has to say about it.
And Jill wants to say it. Jill?
You had mentioned like redirecting them to some other organizations that did work or like instead of us or something. I'm just curious what who you referred them to organizationally.
So basically, it's not redirecting them. Like there's what we did was provide suggestions of an organization that can have like a food production component. Just initially when we discussed, we thought we were going to be able to be that food production element, like the full council will be able to do that. But on speaking with the clerk, since formally we don't own the community gardens, we can't be that food production element. So we I'm trying to remember the name of the organization. High Life. So we suggested maybe they can discuss with High Life to see if they can, because it's not only the Winnipeg Full Council. Meetings with Climate Connections have shown that even they have other partners, like Leftover Foundation is one of the partners they will be working with on this project. So we were just trying to make sure that they get that food production element of the project.
Okay, just curious.
Thanks, Jill. Dustin, you talked about, first of all, what's the timeline on this? What we have a deadline here?
Yes.
What are we worried about time-wise? Mid-March?
I think it's March 18th,
Okay, so it's happening. This is our last meeting, regular meeting before
the deadline.
before the deadline, okay. Dustin, you talked about adapting the application to suit the circumstances, something like that.
Yeah, so
And then you talked about who owned and did not own, and I have to admit, I sort of started missing it. It's not all on you, but.
yeah, and I don't have individual authority to do anything. I think I was suggesting that there already is a food production element involved with the city of Winnipeg. We have lands where we allow for community gardens to be based. So we do already support a food production element. We just don't support it with funding through the Winnipeg Food Council or the city of Winnipeg directly to advance food security. It's more so offered as space. So this funding does support a food production element if it is located on lands owned by the city of Winnipeg.
So you're making an argument, sorry, that the proposal is bona fide, like that we don't have, is that what you're saying? You're making the case that there's no problem with it? So I'm just confused. Might be the case. That's one's entitled to make such an argument. So you were talking about how it didn't fit criteria because of the issue of ownership of the land,
Of the food production. Sorry, the deadline is February 28th.
right?
2025. So what we were told was, the food production element, what we thought was because we support community gardens, but we were made to understand that we don't have authority over these community gardens because they are owned by different organizations within the city. And so we can't use those organizations as the food production element. Now, I think what Dustin is trying to say is if the community gardens are on city lands, right? Like
When they are.
So we have our designated funding open. We have the criteria set for the Urban Agriculture Small Grants Program. What we can do is open up another round of funding with specific criteria for community food production on City of Winnipeg owned land where community gardens are based. So it's a program, but we can open up another round of funding should we receive this grant.
So can I just ask for clarification? Are you talking about offering some of that grant, the assumption we get it, to like as a supplement to the UACG grants?
Every dollar, if we receive it, should go to supporting community gardens. I'm saying the criteria for that round of funding would only be eligible for community gardens on City of Winnipeg owned land.
So you want to make an adjustment to the application, right?
It wouldn't change the current one that is further down on our agenda, set to open set to close, March 28th. I'm talking, it would be, should we receive approval in a few months, realistically, we could open up another round of funding with its own new criteria approved by the Food Council.
So you want to, it sounds to me like you want to add a different criteria to the application.
Jill?
I kind of understand what he's saying. I think that makes sense. I sort of brought this up in the meeting I was last in, was like the amount of food coming out of community gardens and like the way food comes out of community gardens is very dependent on how those specific community gardens are run, right? So a community garden that is an assigned bed garden that is in a neighborhood where people own homes as opposed to rent, that is, it's a very different kind of community garden than one that is in an area where largely the people who are accessing that garden are renters or people who are precariously housed, and so I think it also becomes more complicated than just like, is it on city land or not, as to whether or not that community garden is like actually producing food for community as opposed to like assigned bed gardening. It's just different.
We still have the issue of partnership
Yeah.
because this LFIF grants, the large scale one, you have to be in partnership. The Winnipeg Full Council can be in partnership with Climate Connections.
Right.
It will have to be, the Winnipeg Full Council can be in partnership, except the city of Winnipeg is in that partnership. And for the city to be in that partnership, I don't know what the there has to be a legal service agreement done for that. And so that is one side of the issues that we're having that we can't move past. So even if we accept, or even if it's possible for us to receive funding, because I tried to ask if we can receive a donation. Still, I was told we couldn't. So I don't really know the way forward.
But I'm just wondering if we could have it shared, the reason through the clerk how it is not able to be a partnership. And I understand that there is approval that would need to be done before anything is signed, but understanding that the application deadline is different than the date of approval versus the date of, signature, there is a gap of time that can be done in. Understanding that there's challenges, I'm trying to get a clear understanding why there's not able to be a legal partnership with Conservation Connection.
Okay, so I can give you a very basic answer to this at this point. Any types of donations received and any types of applications all need to go through EPC. So it's not within the purview of the Winnipeg Food Council. They don't have the authority to enter into any kinds of agreement on behalf of the city. So we as the Food Council, you as the Food Council would not have the authority to apply for external grants without that EPC approval.
Understood.
Okay.
Is that because it goes against the charter of?
It's against the terms of it. Let me just look at the email that we shared with the coordinators.
So just a quick question on that. The original motion includes the boilerplate line and allow the duly authorized agents of the city to do whatever's necessary to pursue this.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Danny?
I'm afraid I don't have the original motion in front of me, but
Okay.
I believe the original motion has, as part of it, at EPC, allow the duly authorized officers of the city to pursue this to see.
To authorize all the persons, like,
do what's necessary.
to do as necessary.
The last, therefore clause at the end of all motions as passed
Yeah.
by EPC or council,
Yeah.
That the clerks, not the clerks, the administration do all that is necessary to enact.
Yeah.
So something like that.
Presumably that gives us at least the authority to pursue it to as far as it dies.
Yeah, so we're happy to go into more detail with the coordinators, not like offline from the meeting, to go into details as to the terms of reference and the requirements from the city. And if you guys could report back to the council, that would be great. At this point, the Food Council doesn't have the authority to enter into any type of partnership without further approval. So this would need to go through legal and through EPC, and
So we wouldn't be able to sign the city up to something, but we could get it to the point of handing it off to legal to go through the agreement.
my understanding is possibly, but we would have to talk more about that because it isn't a straightforward yes or no answer.
And we still have a time limit of February 28th,
Yes.
February 28th. Dustin?
Yeah, I understand that we don't have approval at this time to sign anything, but we do have approval to proceed with application is what I'm trying to, in partnership.
And therefore, present to the EPC something that is sort of beyond the charter of our food council. I'm just trying to figure this out. By the way, You're saying bring it to clerks or legal, bring it to legal, et cetera. That would take a while. We're dealing with the February 28th deadline. Dustin, all we're talking about, because I don't want to stop the discussion, is what we're talking about now. Do you think at this moment that it's feasible in your mind that whatever conflict that we have right now, we're discussing right now on this report item, that it can be resolved before February 28th?
It was my understanding that while we do wish to proceed with the application in which we voted to approve on at our previous meeting, I think the legal issues were in the hands of the coordinators, the clerk, EPC, so forth, to resolve in time should we receive a successful application. So it wasn't meant to be resolved before the application deadline.
Okay. They are presenting a report back in terms of the feasibility. That happens. I'm just going to put out there now. I mean, this is an unusual day for it to be your first day. It's an unusual bog down. I mean, on a report item. It doesn't usually happen this way. Having said that, it's kind of serious. One of our members would like something to happen. We're looking at whether it's within the charter of the committee and within the parameters of the application, et cetera. And anyway, just so you know, should we might we have to think in terms of having another special meeting of the food council before the 28th? Do you think that would be helpful if we can't resolve this today? Because I don't think we are. Especially since our clerk said this might have to go to legal. We don't even know how long that would take. But I'm just throwing it out there.
I think that's
Since we're talking about this.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, we need quorum to do that, right?
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor. My understanding, and I wasn't the clerk for this committee before, but the former motion was to apply for a specific grant, not for the iteration of this grant that you're talking about. So the former motion does not address partnerships with other organizations either. So our direction from our department was pretty clear when we were in communication with the coordinators, what the parameters were for this type of support. So I think going forward, we would have to, if you'd like, we could take a short recess and I can go consult with them for a better explanation. Whatever you think is best. But I know that there are some major issues that need to be addressed before this could be an ongoing.
Would that be the will of the committee? This is an unusual meeting, I gotta say.
Well, let's take a little, how about like a 10, 15 minute recess?
I'd say, what are you thinking there, Dustin? We're looking at how we can optimize any results for getting some answers today, kind of thing, a 10-minute recess?
If it's the will of the council to believe that there could be progress, I would be open to it. If the thought is that there probably won't be progress, then I would opt for the latter of requesting another meeting before the 20th. I think that the recess could be useful. So I'm going to go along with clerk's suggestion on this, and we will take an 8-minute break.
Even 5 would probably be fine. We just don't want anyone.
Or 6-minute break.
Okay.
And we are still on report item 2, the report from the coordinators, and Clerk Carnegie, can you tell us where we're at?
Yes, so we recessed to discuss Dustin's questions in regards to the coordinator's report. So I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Chair, to explain.
Yeah, sure. So we've had a brief discussion and to address the issues that we're discussing in this report. And as rather dealing with the issues as we've had question and answer in the 10-15 minutes before that. The issues that I raised were question of whether it's within our scope and capacity and whether we're feasibly within within the timeline. And the way I see it at this time is that it is unconventional for us to proceed as we are in terms of for us to enter into a partnership within the organization. And because in that capacity, it would be an advisory report to the next level of this government to which we are directly accountable, which I believe is the Executive Policy Committee. And therefore be the purview of the Executive Policy Committee and then perhaps Council to make that decision by which we would only be making the recommendation. We don't have the mandate within the charter of this committee. We could pursue it longer and to see if that would be possible, but that would also take the time and the resources of the legal department of the city of Winnipeg as well. And therefore, we could carry on this one to see about the feasibility of this, going on to the EPC and perhaps council from there, who would be making the ultimate judgment on this, not the Food Council. But it unfortunately doesn't work with the timeline because of the time limit for the grant application, right? The deadline. And therefore, what I see in all sincerity, because I don't mind this at all, and I don't mind even having an extra meeting, I don't. I don't see it feasible at all time-wise for us to dot all the I's, cross all the T's for all of the process to be officialized before the deadline. I would consider it an impossibility. And if anyone could show me how, unfortunately, given the timeline of the federal grant application and just given sort of the steps that would go from here in terms of the officiality of this, to respect the officiality of the Winnipeg Food Council within its realm and its place within City Hall, just dealing with the legal department of the city as well, would that unto itself, let alone the timeline for EPC council meeting, I just don't see it happening. But I'm willing to see, I'm positive about that, unless someone can show me an alternate timeline which this is feasible. Which, if that includes a special meeting, all glad to be there, kind of thing. But I don't know what else to say, and that's my advice to the Food Council in this case. And I got to say, this is an unusual day, an unusual first meeting for our first members. Getting bogged down in process doesn't always happen. Having said that, let's face it, that's what we do here. We're a cog within a cog, and we do deal with governments, organizations, agencies, an economic system, and the bureaucracy of the city of Winnipeg. And that's our role, and we're in the middle of that when it comes to food. Not sure what else to say at this point, but that's my way in. Any other comments? Dustin, you're the one who led when it comes to the climate change connection. Yeah, let's face it, you're kind of a thing now when it comes to the Food Council. You brought them to us in the first place, and we're doing some great work in North East Kelowna because of that. Having said that, on this case, Dustin, do you have any further comments to make?
Yeah, I don't wish to delay the meeting any further. I would personally recommend continuing to pursue this, understanding that there are additional intakes for the LFIF funding. I do not want to put it to rest and wish to continue to proceed with what needs to happen to get legal approval to enter into a partnership. Okay. But at this time, would like to proceed with other items, including an item on a letter of support. So just leave it out there.
Okay, so so you're accepting the timelines of the city of Winnipeg and the timelines of the federal application program, and that these two timelines of these two ships, to mix another metaphor, will pass each other. But they're going to do this on principle for further consideration for federal funding another day down the road. kind of thing, which is not a wrong thing to do. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, like I think we need to work on the processes for this. It needs to be in place. Like applications are usually open for 1 month. It's not feasible to proceed with any applications. Therefore, we continue to lose the battle and lose competitiveness with other jurisdictions that are getting funding for food security.
And so in this case, because we're talking about the Food Council being the partner, so that is one thing to explore. It is unusual for us. We can't say for sure it is beyond the scope of the Food Council, but to be sure, if we were to be, that would have to be ratified and decided by EPC or council. So we're asking to go beyond the realm of the Food Council anyway. I think it's still within our right to pursue that. The timeline on this, we don't know. And on that basis, do we want to? I'm wondering if we want to lay this motion over to the next meeting, so to give it a stronger. Or do you want a motion out of here, a signal to the legal department to start soon, to start right away?
I would just ask that the report be done by the coordinators on the legalities of the issues so that the council has a full understanding of the entire process that we need to proceed with in order to have the Winnipeg Food Council be a partner applicant in any future funding.
So right now we're in the coordinators' reports. This sounds like a motion related directly to the coordinators' report. Sounds very practical. Process-wise, Carnegie, we wait for the clerks to finish the report and then we move. Then do we move Justin's motion?
We can put it under new business.
Under new business, okay.
Is that okay for everybody?
All right, and on that basis, please continue on with the coordinators' report.
No, I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Any further questions for Sola and Danny? Okay. Seeing none, at this point, would someone like to, Hannah, would you move the report, the coordinators' report?
Yes, I'll move the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Now, please, I'll have to leave soon. I have another food issue of food access. We call it the Better Access to Groceries program. We're in the Chalmers Community Center, and which we call the BAG, Better Access to Groceries. So that's one of the acronyms for the number of food programs that we've been developing. That one's one of the oldest ones, actually. It had nothing to do with me. But we're expanding it. And I am going to have to leave for some sort of important opening very soon, just to let you know. In the meantime, I think I have time for one more report as chair, and then please, if Martina could take it over after that, our vice chair. So we're on report item 3, reports from subcommittees. Where do we go from here, Nicole?
Report from the subcommittees. So I'm not sure if the coordinators want to speak to that on behalf of the subcommittees or if Martina speaks to that.
I can speak to the research and policy.
Okay.
Subcommittee. So the Research and Policy Subcommittee met on January 27th, and at this meeting we welcomed new Winnipeg Food Council members to the table, so Ramon Salas. Additionally, we had 2 non-voting subcommittee members join us, Maddie Sean from the United Way and Amalia Santiago, who's a PhD student from the University of Manitoba. And as we know, we've got 2 other new Winnipeg Food Council members, Jill and Mike. So, of course, as you get to learn about the subcommittees, if you are interested, I do chair the Research and Policy Subcommittee. So we can make sure that minutes are sent to you guys as well, so you can just kind of see what has been happening there. One of the things we did report on at the meeting on the 27th was a meeting between Busola, Danny and I, and Pro Bono Students Canada, and Jennifer McCrae from Climate Connections was there. So this was all in relation to the project with the storage, like refrigerated storage units for the redistribution of surplus food. So the law students that we are partnering with are well on their way in reviewing bylaws and liabilities and city zoning as it relates to the location and placement of storage containers for this food rescue project. So I guess I'm not sure how it'll be good information to have perhaps for any future work that we do. It sounds like a lot of the things have been changed because of the LFIF grant situation, but the pro bono students should have a draft for us by the end of March. One of the highlights of the meeting on the 27th was we heard from Michelle Raining. She's the chairperson of the Vancouver Food Policy Council. She's also a member of the Vancouver Food Justice Coalition and the Vancouver Food Innovation Lab. And so she shared with us some of the things about the Vancouver Food Policy Council. And I'll share a little bit with you right now. The council operates with a working group structure, and they have established 3 working groups currently: the equity working group, a school food working group, and an urban agriculture and infrastructure working group. The City of Vancouver has dedicated 3 planners to food system work alone, which was quite remarkable to hear. In the past year, the Food Council identified how little municipal funding there is for food system work. So I think we all agree with that. And what they've been doing is bringing requests to council, focusing on the development of a food systems grant. So that's been something that their council has been advocating for. The Vancouver Food Policy Council has also been involved in a variety of areas, from the development of a cultural food asset map, improving food access via transportation. They've played a big role in educating the City of Vancouver on food system related issues and consultation on broader city strategies and planning, such as the Local Food Systems Action Plan. She was very gracious in sharing numerous resources with the Research and Policy Committee, and specifically with regards to the food systems funding overview. The Research and Policy Subcommittee did debrief a little bit afterwards, and you know we had talked a lot about how to drive those food related initiatives forward. You know, in keeping with sort of some of the barriers that we have as a volunteer advisory council, and you know, we've got Busola and Danny doing good work, but that's just in terms of the amount that can be done, they are not only solely for food system work within the City of Winnipeg. We also just kind of talked about how the Winnipeg Food Council as a council might need to be a little bit more strategic in how it can slide food system and food policy related agendas into current City of Winnipeg structure. So on a broader level. So that's it.
Were there that last line? That's good. I mean, we have done things like that at City Hall, food related mandates regarding procurement and things like that. We have done things like that. But nonetheless, I mean, these are always things to think about. When it came to that last issue of food council priorities affecting city procedures, were there any further specifics mentioned on that one?
I'd have to look at the other notes. Like I gave a Coles Notes version here. Sure. I think the thing that was quite interesting is the advocacy the council has done with the city for like a food system grant, so that there is some dedicated funding. So here, we have for an urban agriculture small grants program, but we can do a lot more than gardens. So perhaps that might be some place for research and advocacy from this council to, I guess I don't know how it would go, EPC or, the city as a whole.
I've got a comment to that, but Jill has a comment or question.
So there are organizations already doing this work. Like Fireweed Food Co-op is already doing this work. And there others are already doing this. Another thing I just want to, I guess, bring up is a lot of what I'm hearing is things going toward either community gardens or essentially like donation food, and like that's that's not food security. Like people receiving like charity food is not establishing actual food security within the city. Like just giving people like I understand there it is perhaps a step, but ultimately like we understand that like charity work does not like empower people and does not allow them to like, you know, to have control over like their own lives or like food security and stuff like this. So like what does the Winnipeg Food Council do as far as like motions, or like what do we talk about, like I don't know, the fact that like people, like what can we do to make sure people are getting like enough money in their lives and stuff. Like I understand it's about food systems and stuff, but we know the roots of insecurity, and it just feels like we're talking about like addressing it at such a like far away from the root of the problem level that it just like it's kind of it's fascinating. It's kind of interesting to me. Like I'm very used to working directly with individuals. Like my experience is like very like I literally work for MOPS for Sunshine House. I literally work with like the most like on the street individuals, the most like food insecure folks. And it just I don't know. It just seems like we're not actually talking about like the actual problem.
I'd love to address what you're talking about. I think you're hitting something on the nose. You really are. And then you have to look at it in terms of the one role that one committee plays. I'm really glad what you said. You opened up a can of worms, but that's okay. Because this is a big issue. And so that's great. Mike Kiedek.
Yeah, I just wanted to add what Jill was saying. I'll fast forward your introductions on your agenda for myself. My background is I work with low-income people 24/7 every single day. The only day I ever take off is Christmas Day, and I do not take off any other day. I work weekends. I work past when all the offices are closed, when all the organizations all across Winnipeg are closed. I'm the only one open to any low-income people, homeless, EIA issues, anything. And a little bit about me is I've been homeless myself. I've actually slept on Portage and Main when I was homeless. And you know what happened when I slept on the stairs? Some security guard said, "Get out of here. We're not helping you." Back then, I got no help. I got a slap in the face and said, get out. And they didn't help me. They didn't show me a shelter. They didn't tell me where to get food. Nothing. I felt like I got literally slapped and said, "Get out of here." And that's what I felt like when I was homeless. And you talk about food insecurity. I see it more and more and more. It's getting worse because I'm a logics and stats guy. According to the stats that I've seen by StatsCan, 2 million people have used food banks this year. Winnipeg Harbor's numbers have gone up 70% within the last year. Fact number 3, the provincial government, even though they've been in government 2 years, they've done nothing to help the people on low income or their budgets, anything like that to help them get by. Even an extra $100 within their budget would go a long way, but they're refusing to help. And it comes down to the basics of what Joe said. It's food insecurity. And it's not, part of it is funding, but part of it is how are we saving our Winnipeg residents who actually can't go without food. I work at 9 Circles twice a month, and I hear people say, "You know what, this amount of food that you give me, which is like 6 or 7 grocery bags worth, thank you so much. You just fed my family for 10 days because our provincial government won't feed us. So the food banks and the organizations have stepped in.
I
So-
guess. Yeah, I guess so. I have also done this kind of work, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like food bank based programs are not a way forward to food security, like hard stop. Like donating
And,
food.
and you're right, it's not, but in the meantime,
Well, yeah,
if our government's not doing nothing, somebody has to step in and get involved.
If I can address, like, I really value your comments, Jill. Household food insecurity is an income related issue, and these other initiatives that have been on the floor, they address some food access, but it's not changing the issue. People don't have enough money in their pockets to buy food, and we know that. And I think that maybe when we talk, like just some of the debrief at the Research and Policy Committee after talking with Michelle from the City of Vancouver, I think if there could be, as a council, there is an opportunity here to be more vocal and advocating to, whether it's poverty reduction strategy, what have you, for more money in City of Winnipeggers pockets to afford food. So,
like
go ahead.
I guess like a problem that obviously we all kind of know is happening is like Loblaws increasing quantities. So like the actual issue is like government's not putting rules around like price increases on food so that like whoever the guy in charge of Loblaws like lines his pockets, while like 1 in 4 parents goes without a meal because they need to feed their kids. So like why are we as the food council like not working toward, I don't know what is within our power to do, right? But I guess I feel like there is different and I guess more impactful things that we can do that are not just related to like charity work, because we again I don't know, we know that is not actually a way forward. And like I don't know if the City of Winnipeg gives a lot of money to Harvest. I don't know if they get any money from the City of Winnipeg, but like as long as people are depending on charity models, the other people who deal with like how much money people get on EAA, and like the governments can continue to not give people enough money to live, as long as they can be like, oh, you can go to get a hamper if you don't have enough money.
Yeah, I think I just want to add on to her last point there. I liked your idea where we, as a council, I think poverty reduction is a great idea, but the other idea I really loved, and I heard it about 5 minutes ago, is as a council, we should take our concerns to the EPC, but also in the same breath, take our concerns to the provincial government, because they need to know what's really going on in the city. And they've ignored it for almost 2 years now. They really we need more of a voice to them, so they really need to take it seriously.
If I may say something, well, the issue of food security is a complex one, and it's not only about economic, but also other environmental factors that come into play. Like because one of the concerns raised also has to do with funding, and I'm wondering if the funding. If the subcommittee has done some research in terms of potential sources of funding that would support various urban agriculture and community gardening projects. I think I understand there have been successes and best practices that have been gained through this program, but I think it's better to actually be able to leverage external resources. I mentioned in the subcommittee meeting where, this program, the urban agricultural initiative can be rationalized within the broader context of changing climate, where there are federal funding opportunities and even the province itself. So there's this climate action fund and then the federal grants, of course, through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities that, that the council in partnership with local communities can leverage to support local initiatives, advance, the implementation of those initiatives within a natural green infrastructure framework, because that's the in thing today. I mean, and so to be able to access those funding opportunities, because the province also has limited funding resources, so you have to really put forward innovative, cutting edge proposals, and I have heard Climate Change Connection. They're into innovative, community-based approaches that can also, support those initiatives. So I think it's really important to come up with a more purposive research that looks into all these funding opportunities, because as we generate more resources, that will also be able to support the economic needs of the local communities, particularly the vulnerable sectors.
I'd like to say, given that, I mean, I guess that's the ideal. As our economy grows, we have the resources. If you look at our economy has grown, here's the challenge, because our economy has grown, and yet it is getting harder for people to buy food. I'm going to say the conversation today has been very refreshing in general. Manas had a comment.
Yeah, I have a comment. Obviously, it seems like a little bit of disconnect. The points raised by other members are very emotional and very important. But I just want to know what is our mandate? Like why we are procrastinating about some of the things which may or may not be in our purview. So we need to be a little bit focused and think about what tangible we can do to progress something.
Yeah.
We can do on hundreds of things and we can't do any of them achieving. So my view is there. I want to use my time a little bit of tangible things. What is our purview? What is our mandate? Can we move forward on that? May it be one or two, I don't care. But we need to think about that rather than putting our foots everywhere and gain nothing. It's my opinion only.
Yeah, fair enough, Manas. I think we will always have our reports and our committees and our mandates and our applications. We'll do that. Happens to be an unusual day, I said from the beginning, an unusual meeting, but then we have 3 new members. And so we're already getting we're touching on, happens to be a meeting where we're testing what our powers are. What is our mandate? What is our abilities? What is our empowerment? What is our level of ability here? So we're testing that today with 3 new members too. And they're already opening up, questioning exactly what are we doing here, talking about this, that, and the other thing when we got bigger, larger systemic problems is sort of what I'm hearing. And I'm going to say, when it comes to that, I'm going to say it, that's why I run. Now, I feel like I'm that person in the city council chamber talking like that. We're doing this, we're doing that, but we're not really addressing kind of thing. And I'll be more specific another day. I got to go. So I like this, but the thing is, what comes to my mind is, which I wanted to talk about at Food Council one day. We say, it's hard to buy food and stuff, but I think we owe it to each other to say it's a little more complicated to say than, well, we know why. I think if we're going to deal with this issue, I think we have to create a food inflation report. Explain to ourselves, why is there food inflation? Not say we know. Not say because they're lining their pockets or whatever. Oh, I agree with you, but I have to be able to prove it. And if I can't prove it, what's the point in saying it? Kind of thing. Otherwise, anybody can say whatever they want without proof. So as much as I agree with you, Jill, I need to prove that. And so I think we should, that's what I think we should do about what you say. Create a food inflation report. Not just say it's because they're lining their pockets, but prove it. prove where the money's going. Otherwise, how can you solve a problem? You can't explain. And that's why I agree with you, Jill, but that's why, what's the next step? So you challenge me, I challenge you.
I've got a question on that. I know Jill wants to jump in. Don't worry, I won't be long. Here's one way to prove it. You ask anybody who's on EIA to do a random grocery shop, show them the bill, show them the groceries, there's your proof.
Yeah, but where'd the money go? That's what I need.
No, it's going right to the grocery store.
Right, and where does the money go from there? That's if we can't say that, give that answer, how are we gonna solve it? How are we gonna solve it? You can't solve a problem you can't explain.
But are you proposing to do research that others have already done and shown?
Then
Because
we
that's
can-
a waste of time.
But then we haven't shown that research here at the Food Council. So if we showed that research, that's not a waste.
Right. Like
That's-
show it, but like we do not need to do the research ourselves. It's
Using
been
other-
done.
Reusing other research is what we can use. And but believe me, there will be people that will be arguing with us. I do this all the time when it comes to construction inflation in the council chamber. I've got people saying that my statistics are completely inaccurate. They're not my statistics. And they say that to me, to everybody in front of my face, kind of thing. So that's where I'm coming from when it comes to inflation issues here at City Hall. So I'm liking what I hear, but in order to make this worthwhile, you gotta ante up. You gotta prove it. And if you're saying that there's other research out there, that's what I'm talking about. We have to rely on other people's information ultimately. And so I'm saying that's a great thing. Now, unfortunately, after that, I gotta go. I really like this conversation. This is why this food committee is my favorite committee. This is one more day of proof because of the conversation we're having right now. And you've just I don't know, brought my motivation, to the Food Council for another year kind of thing, just on the last 15, 20 minutes. Unfortunately, I have to go to another food oriented issue where we are getting good deal produce, fresh produce in the wintertime to people in the Chalmers area of my ward. It is subsidized, but it is true produce, whole produce. And for why I'm being endeared to the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal Corporation all these years, and we're going even beyond that. So I'm going to celebrate an expansion of what I consider to be a very important issue. And unfortunately, yes, we haven't resolved the whole economics of it. So we do what we can when we can, and I mean subsidizing whole food and getting it close to people that they can pick up at a really good price. Thanks so much for this. I gotta go. Kirk will take care of the change of the chair, and thank you, Martina. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, Counselor. If council is amenable, if the committee is amenable, then we will just switch the chair over to Martina. And also, if there's any other subcommittee report to provide at this time. Otherwise, I'll ask you to move for the report to be taken as information received.
Sure. I just wanted to thank Jill and Mike for their comments, and I think there's lots of good discussion that can move forward, and perhaps that's something that you can bring forward to the coordinators and myself through the Research and Policy Subcommittee. I think there's lots of work that can be done. So yeah, I think it's quite valuable. And Dustin, were you putting your hand up earlier?
Yeah, I just said just sort of in essence of time, all the work that and encouragement of ideas is best moved forward through work at the subcommittees and focus our efforts and attention on there, because that's what really drives forward our efforts.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so now I move for acceptance of
that the report of the subcommittees be received as information.
Oh, do we want to do the
Yeah, I can do
development
it
and
really quick.
communications?
Oh, I'm
there's a
sorry.
seconder.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Very, very quick. So we met on February 4th. We did discuss the Urban Agriculture and Community Gardens Grants Program. There was some really good discussion about improving the evaluation process. And I think that's something that's going to be undertaken this year before we actually get into evaluating the incoming grants. We have set as a date, March 28th, as the deadline for applications. The new forms are attached on the agenda. They are almost identical to the previous year's forms. The only differences was there was some clarifying language to help applicants know mostly how to allow us to communicate with them better. But other than that, it is an identical application to the previous year. That really is the summary of the report.
Any questions for Danny?
Now, in relation to the criteria that's been considered as criteria for evaluating those projects, so does that involve also the ability of proposed projects to demonstrate all these co-benefits? So it's not only about producing food, but also advancing efforts to, achieve multiple goals, generating cash crops, and then also while also preventing flooding or mitigating flood, and then improving water quality.
There isn't a formal part of keeping in mind that we're talking about updating the evaluation process. To date, there hasn't been like a formal inclusion of that sort of co-benefit consideration in a really broad sense. There are some very specific ones around, mostly around equity and around support, just the direct social benefit of having more food on people's tables.
Yeah,
I guess to help answer that question as well. The criteria also at the end includes if you can demonstrate project need, be a support of local residents, participants, or agencies through various means. Like the letters of support attached to some applications provide that proof that there is additional benefits. So it's up to the applicant to put the effort in there.
We've tried to make clear in the application that applicants should really highlight everyone that they're impacting, and hopefully that comes through. We've tried to also be open by having our communication details on the application that applicants can contact us to try to fine tune what they're doing. So.
Anything else for Danny? All right, so then I will move to.
We'll ask for someone.
If I can have someone move the two subcommittees. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dawson.
And second, Mattis.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm not used to chairing, so you have to bear with me.
Absolutely.
Oh, all in favor. My apologies.
Motion
Passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina. And now we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, and that will be membership updates. So I will turn to the coordinators. I think we've done one. Councillor Schreier did provide information on the new members, but if there's anything else you'd like to add?
I think as we said, that our three new members are with us. Thank you very much for making the time, and to our senior members, not to use that in a negative way. Thank you for being here as well. We were also able to get two new folks in who are non-voting members who've offered to help support the processes of the subcommittees. So we're quite grateful for that. And so perhaps next year we'll even be welcoming some of them in as voting members. So.
And I know we are pressed for time. I don't know if the new members would like to say one or two things about their background. So we just want to know, like, your background, what your background is. We can start with anyone who can start.
I've already said mine.
Okay.
Ramon,
what's your background?
Well, my name is Ramon Salas. I'm the president of Caring for Our Environment, Manitoba. It's a small non-profit organization involved in the promotion of knowledge and action on environment and sustainability issues. And so in relation to my actual work profession. I'm senior policy analyst with the government of Manitoba Department of Environment and Climate Change. So I lead projects on climate adaptation, engaging with municipalities, watershed districts, northern indigenous communities, and professionals. So yeah, so that's my area of expertise, and I have my formal education are in the areas of urban and regional planning, environmental policy. Thank you.
Jill?
Sure. I worked in food service for years and years. And then I was hired at West Central Women's Resource Center, and I ran their community garden program for 4 years. I developed a different kind of community garden program than what was generally implemented in that area, just due to the who is accessing that garden. And we ended up getting over 100 pounds of food out to community each year, which was like a pretty unreal. After that, I ran the Veggie Van for 2 years. So the Veggie Van is an initiative where local producers, so small scale local producers, we purchase food directly from them at wholesale prices, and then we receive subsidies from various businesses and grants in order to cover the cost. We use, a van, we being myself, just me, get a van and a tent, and I drive out to community organizations, North Point Douglas Women's Center, various women's centers around the city. We're at 6 at this point. And over the summer I set up a literal vegetable stand. But it's all locally produced vegetables, it's all subsidized, and it's pay what you can, so that individuals not only have the autonomy to choose what food they are getting, as opposed to hamper programs where often you receive a lot of food that you don't use or don't want. Also, it's much more nutritionally dense generally than canned food and that kind of thing. But also working directly with community and the needs of community. So, and then that's because that program is generally dependent on local farms. It doesn't run over the winter, also because of funding. But I also work for Sunshine House. Right now I'm working for MOPS. I was offered the position of the food security coordinator at their new, they're opening a new thing. So I'm going to be doing that. But yeah, I've been doing community focused work for a very long time. And I've seen a lot of different aspects of food security in the city. And from my own experience, but also witnessing the experiences of others. And it's interesting. I come to this council being someone who, I'm gonna be honest, I hate bureaucracy. I hate bureaucracy. But I think that maybe bureaucratic spaces need that sometimes because things get very bogged down. And yeah, I don't know. But that's why I'm here and what I've been doing for my career.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so now we just need a mover to accept the verbal reports on the new committee members. Dustin?
And second? No, all in favor? Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. So next on our agenda is item number 5, a Winnipeg Food Council 2024 annual report. So I will turn that over to Danny.
Perfect. So what you have there is in Appendix A of item 5 is a digital copy of our very beautiful 2024 annual report. Details the work that we've accomplished, a little bit about the Urban Agriculture Community Gardens Grant, of course, as well as some of the things you may remember from our various meetings. The Green Infrastructure Program goes a little bit into the pro bono students Canada agreement that we've been working on, including the one that we did last year. And it talks about the household food waste reduction outreach campaign, as well as some of the other work that we've done. The photos in it are primarily photos that were submitted to us by the recipients of the community gardens grants. And so they show a lot of the great work those folks have been doing. So there are paper copies if anyone would like one. I'll bring them to the next meeting.
So if we can move to accept that as information.
Yes, the annual 2024 annual report attached as Appendix A be recommended to PC for approval. That's what we need. So we need a mover to recommend to the Executive Policy Committee for approval.
Manus, thank you. And you, all in favor? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Motion passed.
Great job, Martina.
Thank you.
And then now we will be moving on to item 6 on our agenda, which is the Winnipeg Food Council 2025 work plan and operating budget. So I'm not sure if Busola or Danny, we'll turn it over to you again.
Yes, so the Research and Policy Subcommittee worked with the coordinators to develop the work plan for 2025. Some of the projects activities that were listed here are like a follow-up from what we were doing last year. The other new activities or new projects were those suggested by members of the Research and Policy Subcommittee at some point late last year. We had a meeting where we talked about some of the things we wanted to see and some of the things we wanted to move forward. So if we just take a brief look at the work plan, we'll see that it's quite reduced from what it used to be, because we have removed all the activities that we have completed. All the activities completed so far have been removed. And so most of what is left is some of the activities we are still working on. We can't really do anything about the budget because it's a 4-year cycle, but at least for now, most of the things are status quo and they are the same as previous years. So we'll just leave it at that. Okay, the only thing we added for the operating budget was we have put the food and agriculture strategy planning. We've included that as a budget item, and that's just because we realized that we need to spend a little amount of money to put together whatever research or work we need to do regarding having that food and agriculture strategy. And that is what I have.
Any questions for Busola? Okay, so we can move
That the 2025 annual work plan and operating budget attached as Appendix A be recommended to the Executive Policy Committee for approval. Just need somebody to move that. Bill, are you nodding? Are you the mover?
Okay.
moved by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And next on the agenda, moving on to item number 7, which is the Urban Agriculture and Community Garden Small Grants.
Right, thank you. I believe I've spoken too much at length in my the subcommittee report about this. Effectively, it's the same as what I said before. These are the 2 application forms. We talked about this at the DNC subcommittee meeting. The evaluation process is probably going to be worked on this year to make it better and sharper. But these forms are effectively the same as they were last year, with some rewording to help applicants identify where to put the correct information in. Not terribly exciting changes.
No. Any further questions at all for Danny? To not.
Oh, I should clarify that with the approval of the committee, this will now go out and folks will be able to apply to the program. That's okay. The importance of showing this right now.
And the deadline for intake is March 28th.
That's
is that
right.
Correct? Okay.
Yep.
So we've put together some wording just to support this. So the Winnipeg Food Council directed the committee coordinators to solicit applications for the 2025 Urban Agriculture and Community Small Gardens Community Garden Small Grants Program as per the attached application forms. And consultation with which subcommittee will be your choice to review the applications as received and report back at the April 10th, 2025 meeting of the Winnipeg Food Council with a list of recommended grant recipients for final approval. So we have moved that meeting to April 10th in order to accommodate that after discussions with the coordinators. So if you guys let me know which subcommittee you will have review the applications, I can include that.
That would be the Development and Communications
Okay.
Subcommittee.
Yeah.
And Ramon, you had a.
I was about to ask us to, when can that information, the invitations to, applications for that particular grant can be publicly disseminated or available online on the website?
As soon as this meeting is done and I get back to the office with the assumption that it's acceptable to everyone, I will post it online and we'll start promoting it so that the various community groups will know that it's available to apply to.
So a motion to approve.
I can read them out again, just to be sure. And it's development and
Development and
communications. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So the Winnipeg Food Council directed the community coordinators to 1, solicit applications for the 2025 Urban Agriculture and Community Garden Small Grants Program per the attached application forms. 2, consult with the Development and Communications Subcommittee to review the applications received. And 3, report back at the April 10th, 2025 meeting of the Winnipeg Food Council with a list of recommended grant recipients for final approval. We just need someone to move that if it's acceptable.
Meredith. Okay, and then all in favor?
And that's carried. Thank you very much, Martina. And now we will move on to item number 8, which is the letter of support for Manitoba Food Rescue and Emissions Project.
Yeah, so this is, we spoke about it earlier. This is for that local food infrastructure fund application with Climate Change Connection. This is a letter of support from the Food Council to say that we recognize the value of the project. We want it to go forward. And it speaks about the strengths of Climate Change Connection in pursuing the project and getting it to work. So, any questions?
Yeah, so I was reading the, go ahead, Dustin.
I would just ask that one edit be made to the letter. In the first sentence, it says a collaboration involving the Winnipeg Food Council, Climate Change Connections, Chalmers Renewable Corporation, and the Leftovers Foundation. Based on earlier communications from item 2 or 3 or whatever it was, I would ask that we remove the Winnipeg Food Council from that sentence, as it's no longer considered a collaboration. It's just a letter of support. Regrettably, but that's
Yeah, that makes sense.
We can absolutely make that change. We are collaborating with them on
Pro bono
with
students.
the Pro Bono Students Canada. So we have been supporting them in making the connection with Pro Bono students for the development of a document that will help them navigate our bureaucracy as well as other bureaucracies in getting their project to fruition.
Would that be able to be said instead of in the same sentence of collaboration? Because it would imply to some that that collaboration includes us in the project. If it could just be broken apart to say that the Winnipeg Food Council is working in collaboration with Pro Bono Students Canada on this, but it's not on the
A working collaboration.
Manitoba Food Rescue and Emissions Reduction Project, because it's separate.
Sure. Thank you.
So at this point then, it would be we need someone to move that the amended letter of support to Manitoba Food Rescue and Emission Reduction Project be endorsed.
Okay, so if someone could move that, thank you. Dustin, and on favor. Thank you, that's carried.
Okay, and we'll just need the exact wording for the letter.
Okay, I mean, just for simplicity's sake, so that we don't have to get it, have any additional meetings, just striking Winnipeg Food Council may be the simplest thing.
Okay.
So, I believe same sentence, striking the Winnipeg Food Council with the accommodating brackets there.
I just wouldn't want to have the wrong impression
Yeah,
and then sort of create a red flag down the road should there be issues involving legal.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we'll just read it as moved by Dustin that the letter of support with the following amendment to remove the words the Winnipeg Food Council from that first paragraph. Of support to the Manitoba Food Rescue and Emission Reduction Project be endorsed.
Dustin, we can say you've moved that. Okay, then all in favor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think at this point, we're moving on to the adjournment. So, Martina, if you would like to move for somebody to adjourn the meeting, yes.
Thank you, Mike. We'll move it to adjourn. All in favor. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. It was
You
great
guys.
everyone today.
Bye.
Thank you for your time.